All right, so we're in our second session now together, and um, before we start talking again, I just want to remind you of the confidentiality. So whatever we talk about in here, like I said yesterday, is going to stay right here with us. The only person that gets to see it is Professor. Okay. The only way I had to break my promise about confidentiality is if you're being hurt, you're hurting yourself, or someone's going to hurt. Someone's going to get hurt. Okay. So yesterday, just to kind of rehash from our last session, we talked about, or you talked about things, we kind of established that there were like some areas in your life that were like a little bit concerning, right? So like one of them, do you remember what they were?
Yeah.
What do you remember from them?
One of them was my math.
Your math grade?
Drama.
The school drama.
And was there another one?
And then you were grounded.
Yeah.
And then we had
Chantal.
the issue with Chantal. So, and then I'm just going to say now, I mean, even though we said it off camera, on our last session, just so that it's on record now, I'm just going to repeat kind of what you had told me yesterday. So now that we're more comfortable with the camera and all that. So the issue with Chantal was that last year you guys had this friendship. You guys were super close, like best friends, and then she started cutting and ended up blaming it on you, saying that you had said stuff. And since then, you guys have not spoken, and it's been bothering you since last year to this year. And this year, it's like you guys are seeing each other, but it's awkward, and like you don't really know what to do about it, kind of thing, right? Did I miss anything? Okay, so what I wanted to do today was for you to think about all those things that we talked about yesterday and think about one that you want to focus on and that you feel you can commit to a plan for working on it, for changing. So you think about it and you tell me what's one area that you want the most help with.
The Chantal thing.
The Chantal thing. Okay. So, and you're committed, and that's something that you feel you want to commit time and effort to making changes.
Yeah.
To fix it. Okay. Okay. So let's focus on that. So as of right now, how are you feeling about just that situation with that?
Like, it's awkward because if we see each other at school, it's awkward because of what happened between us. But like, she's always smiling. Like, it's just weird. Like, and it's like hurtful because of what she did.
And when you say it's hurtful, can you tell me more about like what exactly is hurting you?
That I got blamed for something she was doing to herself because she took something that I said the wrong way and decided to blame it on me. So it hurt me that I thought we were so close, and how someone that close could just ruin your friendship that easily when you didn't do anything.
And then I know yesterday we talked about, so first let me repeat. So if I'm understanding it right, it's that you feel hurt that Chantal was hurting herself and then ended up blaming it on you. And if you guys were such good friends, then why would a friend like that put you in that position and blame you for something, right? Did I understand it right?
Yeah.
And that's where you're feeling hurt because
she didn't just tell me, like as a friend, she didn't tell me, and she took it to an adult instead of talking about it first.
Okay. And then, so I remember from our last session, we talked about body language. Do you remember kind of what we were talking about with body language and working with different personalities? What do you remember from that?
That like how we talk with our hands, sometimes they could like make the other person seem like we're going at them or we're speaking in like I don't know how to say it, like it's gonna scare them. And it's not like, I don't know.
And is it your intention to scare
No.
somebody?
It's just like natural to move my hands.
But you understood, so I know in our last session you mentioned that you understood how, once we talked about it, how that could affect somebody sensitive. Like we mentioned that Chantal was more sensitive in like, just the way she communicates. And so you understood, or at least if I remember right, you understood how, thinking back, the way that you might have said, what was the comment? Do you remember the comment, that one comment that she took the wrong way?
That I told her that she was skinny.
Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about maybe the way body language might have presented or tone, and just understanding that our body language might have something to do with the way people understand what we're saying, right? So I wanted to ask you a question. So let's imagine that we're thinking in the future and this problem no longer exists, okay? Or just think about a time when this problem didn't exist with Chantal. What does that look like for you?
I think that we would still be friends, but we wouldn't, like, how long in the future?
Let's say, like, this problem didn't exist. What would it look
So,
like?
from, keep going from when we were friends, but not having that problem?
If you wanted to, so if you're thinking in the past when that problem didn't exist yet, what did that,
Oh, what would that look like? I think that we would still really, I think we still really would be close.
Do you think, when you say close, what do you mean?
Like, we would still have our friendship and we would be fine.
And what about communication? What do you think what would that be like between you guys? Like, as far as the way you girls were talking with each other and knowing what you know now, what would that look like to her? If this problem didn't exist?
Oh, I think it would stay the same because I wouldn't know how she felt or how she said she felt.
Okay. So if we look in the future and let's say the problem no longer existed and everything was perfect, what would a perfect world look like for you?
So if it happened, but
but it was no longer an issue. What is that perfect world? Just imagine none of this had happened, and we're fine. What does that perfect friendship, I guess, look like for you with you and Chantal?
I think that we would be like mutual friends. I don't think we would go back how we used to be.
Okay. Is that what you want? Like that would be your ideal situation, like what you want?
No.
Okay. So tell me what you want.
I don't want anything to do with her.
Okay.
Not to be mean, it's just because she got me in a whole amount of trouble, which I don't blame myself for, because if I were to do something, I would have known, okay, that's why I got in trouble. But I still, to this day, wonder why I got in trouble, because I obviously didn't do nothing. Especially since if I called her skinny and she decided to take it the wrong way, she could have told me straight up instead of coming to an adult, which would got me in trouble.
Okay. So with this situation with Chantal, where do you want the help? What do you want to achieve?
I want to just tell her how I felt.
Okay. So you want that opportunity to communicate with her. Okay. All right. So we, in our last session, kind of practiced you to me if I were Chantal, and you practice kind of talking to me if you were her. So if we were to think about what, how to achieve your goal, you want to have a conversation with her. How do you want the conversation to go?
I want her to understand what I'm saying, because I didn't get the chance to tell her how I felt. I didn't get a chance to ask her my questions. I didn't get a chance to do that. So, I want our conversation to just be, serious, but, understandable.
Okay. And in this conversation, so you want to be heard, would you envision you listening to her feelings also?
Yeah. Because if she did feel that way and just didn't make it up to blame, then I would want her to tell me before if that's really how she felt. But I think that's not how she felt, because I know Chantal, she would tell me if she felt sad, if she felt hurt by me, because she's done it with other people. So she's have to do it with me. So So I felt like she just blamed it on me because she had no one else to blame.
And so I know that you girls were like, from what you told me, were like best friends. And so when you say that she's done it to other people, so she must do it to you. Do you believe that then she didn't value your friendship the way, like, in like, let me see, how can I say this? Like, if you guys were best friends, would you expect for her to treat you differently with a different, I guess, level of respect than everybody else?
Yeah, because if we had a close friendship and we were so close, I would imagine that she would treat me differently than other of her mutual friends because we had more trust. Our friendship was stronger than these other people that she would just be straight up with and tell them how she felt.
So do you feel that she didn't treat you with that different respect?
Yeah.
Is that
Towards the end, I felt like we were just fine when we were best friends until this situation happened. And it just felt like I could not trust her because if she could not come up to me and tell me and have a conversation with me about how she felt, how can I trust her with telling me something or keeping something serious?
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm wondering then if we move forward and we're envisioning this conversation with Shanta, and a lot of what I'm hearing at least is a lot of hurt from you. And so your end goal, you say, is not to become friends again. It's just you want to have your voice heard because you don't feel that it was heard with the other adults that were involved in with Shanta.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like we would naturally just decide, like, not just right then and there to be like, oh, we're going to be friends again. I think that time would naturally just make us be friends or just not talk or just be mutual friends, you know?
Okay, so then if I'm hearing you right, then I would say that you are hoping kind of that the conversation, once you guys have it, eventually you guys would have some sort of relationship?
Well, I mean, depending on what she says.
Okay.
Because if she says something different than what I've heard her say, then it's going to change how I feel. Because I'm not going to just want to be okay with someone who said something like a half a year later, different than what she said in the beginning.
But if you had it your way and everything was perfect, what do you think if you had it your way and everything was perfect and she said, what would she be saying to you?
If it was perfect in my way, I think I would imagine that she would say that she made it up just so she wouldn't get in trouble, just so she would have someone to blame. Because that's my point of view. That's how I see it in my eyes.
Okay. And is there any part of, so for you, it's like, this is what I believe happened, and that's what you want to hear from her.
Yeah.
You want her to say that you were right, and that is what happened.
Yeah, I don't think she will say that, but like, if that's how I want it to be, then yeah, that's how I think of it. So.
Okay. Do you think that there's any, I mean, if we look at, do you think that there's any way that she really felt like that and isn't making it up?
Well, there could. It's like, it's a 50-50 chance, like, I can't tell if it's exactly like that because that's just how I see it, or I can't tell if it's how she really sees it because she's never told me how she felt, so that kind of seems like she made it up.
It makes it hard for you to believe it's true.
It just makes it hard to believe that it's true.
Okay. Do you think the possibility that it is true is there, though?
It could be.
Okay. And if let's say she told you, like, this is really the way I felt. Let's say that she said, I was afraid to talk to you about it for whatever reasons, and she explains, how would you feel then?
I would believe it because, like, I would believe some of it, but I still would just, like, be a little, like, I don't know how to say it, like, I just not believe all of it, like, kind of believe what she's saying if she would give me a good reason and explain why she didn't tell me.
Okay. So, when you go into this conversation, because we know that we don't know what this other person is going to to say. You know your point of view. She's going to have hers. What do you think needs to happen for everybody to be heard and for there to be actually like some sort of resolution?
I think that to be just honest with your feelings, just to tell them what you didn't get a chance to tell them how you seen it, and to just hear what another has to say.
And when you say hear, do you mean hear and give them the benefit of the doubt and believe? Or, because if part of something we have to really consider is that you have from what I hear, you have your point of view. And that's how you feel because you lost trust in her as your friend. So, do you think going into the conversation, having that in the back of your head, saying, well, I want to talk to her. I want her to know how I feel. But she basically has to say exactly what I want her to say if I'm going to believe her. The chance is there that she might not feel the way that you thought. So how would we deal with that then? Because do you think that's a possibility? Yeah. Like she might not feel the way you thought it went down. So then what?
And then I guess I just have to accept what she felt and deal with it. That it's not how I want it to be, and things don't go how I want it to be. Things don't have to go. They just end up like that. And I guess I would just have to deal with it because there's nothing I could do. I can't say, "Oh, you have to feel this way," because everyone has a different feeling and opinion. So if she felt that way, then that's how she felt.
And is that really okay with you?
It would bother me because I would still think she's just saying that for attention and necessarily not just telling the truth. Okay. Because this has happened before with other people. And she's claimed that people always bully her. But from what I hear, they don't.
All right. So let's think about then you expressing in our last session about how when you talk to people, sometimes we do this and we use our body and our hands and our head and all this stuff, and it comes off, in a way that might be like, oh my gosh, to other people, right? So you knowing that who you're about to go and speak to, you're speaking to somebody who is more sensitive, right, in your opinion. So what do you think, if you made a list of things that you need to keep in mind when you go into this conversation, if you want it to go the best way it can, what are you going to say? How are you going to use your body or not use your body? What about your tone? How can you prepare for this conversation with Shanta?
I think that I should be calm. Okay. Because if I speak to her in a certain tone, I think she'll get she's too sensitive for me to speak for her like I speak with other people. Okay. So I have to keep in mind that it is Chantal, and I have to speak with her nicely and not just throwing everything at her so quickly that she gets scared or feels uncomfortable.
Okay. Okay. And do you feel like you can still get your point across because your point of view is important and your feelings in all this are important because they've been bothering you? Do you feel that you can get your point across to her while still maintaining that understanding of how she might, being I guess careful not to make her feel attacked, and do you feel like you can still communicate effectively like that, that you can still get your point across?
That's the reason why I didn't really talk to her, is because I felt like she would get hurt. She'd be like, why didn't you just tell me before, everything like that, she would cry because of how I felt. And she would just be hurt, and she would just get hurt really easily. So that's why I didn't want to tell her.
So what are some things we can do then to be conscious of our tone and body language when we're having these tough conversations with the one you want to have?
I think I should just tell her, like, this is how I feel. I don't mean to hurt you. This is just how I feel, and I haven't got a chance to tell her. I think if I told her, she'd be shocked because she doesn't know how I feel. I've never got a chance to tell her because I knew that I thought that it would just hurt her and she would break down inside.
Okay, those are good points because it's almost like you're afraid then to be super honest with her, and that's why we're at this point with her where it's like there's no relationship because like you be honest, there's trust broken, and you don't know how to talk to her. So one thing that I think would be good for you to practice when you're going into this conversation, when you decide that you want to have it, is to use things that we call like I statements. Have you ever heard of those before? So you would be saying things like, I feel like this, or I felt like this when this happened. So that you're letting her know that you're owning your feelings and you're kind of being open with her. And then when you're able to be open with somebody and use those I statements, I felt like this, I'm, this and this and this, it might open the door for her to be more honest with you as well and to own her, feelings and thoughts and where she was coming from. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that I feel like the chances of her saying something different than I want is higher than what I want. Like, I feel like if she says how she really feels, it's not going to be how I want it to. And it's going to make me feel like it's going to bother me. But I think just getting how I felt, like, across and that she understands how I feel just will make it better, Like, I won't be, like, as bothered with how she felt if I just get my point across.
So, from what I hear is that you believe that the likelihood of her saying something different than when you want her to say is high. So you believe then that there might be a chance that her feelings were real and she just did not communicate with you. Is that what you're saying? And that would be hurtful to you to know? Is that what I'm getting? So like if she said, no, Ayana, really, when you said this to me, it really affected me and I didn't talk about it and instead I decided that, she did what she did, to her self-harm. And she said that, and it was really what you said that bothered me.
But there's also a chance that it couldn't be me and she just made it up because she told me the reason as for why she cut herself. So she had a chance to tell me straight up that she cut herself because of me. And she knows how I can be. Like, I could just be like, okay, then I could stop, if she would just tell me. But she told me a different reason than now she's telling the psychologist.
Yeah. So we know it can go either way. But you feel that as long as you're able to express yourself to her in terms of you being hurt and the trust that was broken and you just wish you would have communicated, then would that make you feel like you're able to move on and feel better?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that the solution you're looking for to this problem, is just the ability to talk it out with her?
And just to get my opinion across to her and that she understands, this is how I made her feel. Because, I just wasn't the one who did something bad apparently in her way. And if I did make her feel this way, then obviously, I would apologize. Because if she would tell me this in the beginning, I would see it in her point of view. I would see, okay, maybe I did. And maybe I didn't see it because it's a compliment that I'm giving her, but maybe she gets too many, like people would tell her that she's too skinny, but people would say it differently than I said it. They would say, oh, Chantal, you're too skinny. You need to grow. Like, I think she took it like that. She could have took it like that, or she could have just made that up.
That's something new that I don't think that you mentioned before. So, if we put ourselves in her shoes, and what you just said, other people in school were telling her that she's too skinny and too anything really is hurtful for girls sometimes, for anybody. So, do you think that? When you think about it that way, there's so many people telling her that. Why do you think? Then, do you think that maybe you saying that just kind of was too much?
I think it could have, but I've been telling her that, not a lot, just as it, like she would say that she's fat, like, and I would tell her like to make her feel, but like you're not fat, you know, like you're skinny, and I think that maybe she just wanted to be right. She just wanted someone to tell her that she is fat, just so that she wouldn't feel the hurt that everyone would tell her, like you're too skinny, you're too this, you're too this, because maybe she did have a lot going on with people, but I felt like if she would have just told me this is how I'm feeling because people are telling me this way and this way, you know, like I think that's a way that I would like that's I think that's how I think that's also what I would want to talk about with her. Like if it did make her feel that way, I want to know why, how, when, because it couldn't just be how I said it. You know, it has to be like how other people said it too. Because people would tell her you're too skinny, you're too this, you're too bony, like everything like that. And I think maybe that is a way why she felt hurt.
And you guys being so close, maybe she took it personally. But you being, because also what I hear also is that you're a good friend to her, because what you just said was that other people would call her fat or other things like that, and you would reply, trying to be a good friend, saying like you're not fat, you're skinny, but it kind of backfired. It sounded like. So your intention, if I'm right, your intention wasn't to hurt her; it was
to make her feel better.
To make her feel better.
Yeah.
And so, what we know about Chantal is that she was getting
so much.
She was getting, you're too skinny, you're fat, you're too skinny, you're fat, and so you got put in a tough position where no matter what you said, kind of, I guess, was wrong.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm getting? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. Am I missing anything?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's complicated, and these are some of the problems that as we get older, like, you know, it becomes more complicated, but the fact that you're willing to have that conversation, because before, in our last session, it was like, you were just kind of like, I don't really want to have a conversation, and now you're at a point where you want to have that conversation and clear the air. So I think that's a step. If that's your goal, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it, it really does bother me more that I thought about it and that I've said how I felt. Because it's been inside of me, it's just been bugging me so bad. No matter how much I would try to forget about it, because it's been a while, it's just, I think now that I've thought about it, that's how I feel.
So is it that you're recognizing that the hurt is still there? Like the problem hasn't gone away just because you ignore it, right? Yeah, and I think that's a good just lesson in general, that we typically have to face our like problems, because if not, and we hold it here, does it go away?
No, it just hurts more. Like I feel like the more I think about it, it hurts and hurts and hurts more. Because I never got this solved, you know. Like they might have solved it, they might have felt like they solved it, but I did not get to my point or chance to tell her how I felt.
And that's important. Like that's really important that you have that chance too, because maybe she doesn't know. I mean, do you think she has any clue the way you're feeling? Yeah. So I think that for our next session, maybe I'll bring in paper and we can actually kind of write down like a list of things to keep your mind organized with the things that you want to say. And maybe we can add little notes about, you know, body language and stuff. And it's okay to have that with you when you have the conversation with her, just as a reminder. How do you feel about that as a plan?
I think it would be easier if I talked about it more than write it down, because like I lose my thoughts if I write it down, because it's difficult, you know, like to write and think at the same time.
Okay. So for our next session, then just for planning, then just so that maybe, so I'm not saying for you to like talk to her and write at the same time. Is that what you thought I was saying?
Yeah,
okay, no.
Just like no.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking, and let me say it again. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We can, for our next session, we can write down together the things that you want to say, and then we can kind of talk about what you feel like, you know, may have a little bit of a tone and might go the wrong way, and then we can work on it together. We can kind of pay attention to like what your body language would say to her, and then we can, we can practice again, and then you can take that note with you, and you can, read it at home or whatever, and then you don't have to take it with you when you go talk to her, but if at least you had something to just kind of review and like think about stuff, because that's something that you did mention, the body language, is that something that kind of the eye rolls and stuff that's just natural for you that sometimes comes across the wrong way, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if we made notes about that and you took them home with you, is that something that you would want to try?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you sure? 'Cause you don't. That's just one idea.
Yeah, I just want to like talk to her,
Mm-hmm.
and like get my way across to her that she understands how she made me feel and how I feel now.
Right. And we'll practice using those I statements. So like it wouldn't be. So when we use I statements, rather than say,
You made me see.
you would say, I feel or felt like this when this happened, right? So it's like owning your feelings and taking ownership of your feelings. It goes a little bit further when somebody can say, I feel. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So that's something we can also make notes on, is like, remember to use your I statements. We can write down some I statements for our next session for you to take with you. Okay? Is there anything else you wanted to add in? Are you sure this time? Okay, so we'll meet again next week, Tuesday. We'll meet again, and we'll make that plan. And then you're committed to trying it. And then we can talk about, when you're going to have that conversation. And then next week would be our last session together. Okay? All right, thank you. It did. You always say that.